Okay, we're live. We'll wait just a few minutes. Let anyone join who's still on their way. How's everyone doing though? Just going to make an announcement on the Discord. How's it going? Joao? Am I saying that right? Not sure how to pronounce your name. Joao. Landon, how's it going? My man underscore. Good to see you. It's a Portuguese name. Nice. Are you in Brazil or Portugal? Or somewhere else? Oop. Cats just got fed. Portugal, still trying to have my first lucid dream. Well, keep trying. Hope you'll get there soon, but it can take time. So today I don't have too much content planned. I kind of wanted to make it a little more open to answering questions and discussing any topics that people wanted me to dive into a bit more. I do have some stuff that I think is interesting that some people wanted to hear about. It got brought up in the Discord a few times. Yeah, definitely ask a quick question. Just anytime, post your questions. But wait, is that your question? Hard? Oh no, you're responding to that other guy. I had one, but hard to control. Yeah, I mean, if you're just starting out and you haven't had too many lucid dreams under your belt, it's pretty normal for you to not have good control or to have inconsistent control or yeah. So that's totally normal, and I think the more you have them, the better you'll get. And it's like I said in one of the last class, a lot of it's just about like learning by doing and just getting more familiar with the environment and how things respond to your own actions and mental state and whatnot. I'm curious, what did you try to control it at all, or did you just like how long were you lucid for? Question is, I've been trying wild for like a week and a half. I can sometimes induce sleep paralysis. Others, I can't fall back asleep. Typically, if you can't fall back asleep when you're doing wild, the standard thing to do is to reduce the amount of time that you're awake for. So there's that like tricky balance of finding the right amount of time to stay awake such that you're awake enough that you don't immediately fall back into unconscious sleep, but that you're not so awake that you can't fall back asleep. So you could try shortening the amount of time that you're awake for. If you sometimes induce sleep paralysis, like how long does that take you usually? because if it's taking you a long time and you also sometimes can't fall back asleep, then it might be good to shorten the amount of time. I could walk everything, but I couldn't create a scene, character, object. Well, that's yeah, okay. I mean, that's good. You can move around, but you couldn't create a scene, character, object. I mean, these things will all like come in time. I think. Did you try to create a scene or a character or an object? Like what did you what did you attempt, and how did the dream respond to your attempt, and how did you attempt it? By the way, should I keep my eyes open during sleep paralysis or closed? I mean, when you're doing a wild attempt, you want your eyes closed. That's, typically you're just going to keep them closed the whole time. And that's true for sleep paralysis as well. By the way, it's not necessarily, uh, it isn't that you have to go through sleep paralysis to have a successful wild, or at least that you don't have to be conscious of sleep paralysis to go through a successful wild. Some people experience it, and other people don't. And some people experience sleep paralysis sometimes, but not all the time. So it's not that it's like this goalpost that you have to reach and then get through. It can happen though, and if it does, the best advice I can give is to just kind of ignore it and keep concentrating on your awareness and just remaining conscious and trying to let the dream form. Let's see. Also, can you address how we may contact someone who is deceased? Yeah, I mean that's a pretty normal. That's something that I think a lot of people want to do in their dreams, and it's the same way you would summon anyone really in a dream. Is that once you become lucid, right? Once you know you're dreaming, then you have to remember your intention to summon that person or to contact, whoever's deceased. And when you remember that intention, then you can actually work to make it happen. So it, for summoning people in general, the you can create like a story as to why they might be there, or you could go to a location where you might expect to find them, with the intention that you want to find them and that you expect to find them there. And so, like, convincing yourself that you will encounter this person or this um, you know whatever you want to summon. If you expect to find them, then you will. So you can like create a little story as to why they might be showing up, and try to immerse yourself in that story, um, and see what happens. 1 second. The second time I lucid dream, I said I want to see my deceased dog, and he appeared to me. Yeah. Wow. Delilah. Yeah. So you think you actually said it out loud? Yeah. So that's actually a good way too. Is you can speak commands, right? If you want to see your dog, you can speak it out and say, "I want to see my dog," or um, like if you're yeah, if you wanted to see your deceased dog, you could imagine that he got out or something, and that but you hear him barking just down the street or something. There is that him barking? There he is. Like let me go get him. He must have gotten out, and then you run out and you find your barking dog outside, something like that, with the expectation that you're going to actually find him. Um, it happens naturally. I don't want it to, but it always happens. You're talking about sleep paralysis. Yeah. Well, if it does happen, it happens. And again, it's not something to fear, and it's not something to um, pay too much attention to. Really, like don't give it a whole lot of weight. Just kind of allow yourself to move past it. I think if you experience it enough, it kind of loses its mm, loses its ability to kind of draw your attention in, and you kind of just ignore it. Um, he was right in front of me, and we hugged. Oh, it's really sweet. Yeah, it can be really it can be really something to experience, to have experiences with deceased animals or people in dreams. It's definitely something that a lot of people seek. And so that actually kind of segues nicely into one of the first topics that I wanted to talk about today. Um, but if you guys continue to have questions, feel free to keep asking as we go. But one of the first topics I wanted to talk about was, um, I think it was closer to astral projecting than lucid dream. I got these weird vibrations and kind of felt like an Xbox controller. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that today, actually. Um, but right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today were actually like some ideas for different things you can do in dreams. One of them being beyond, the standard. So this is like, okay, yeah, you've had your lucid dreams. You can control them kind of. You can do the standard stuff, right? You can summon people. You can maybe you can fly, you can give yourself powers, you can go to visit different places. Um, and realistically, I mean, that can keep you engaged for quite a while, maybe even a lifetime. I'm sure it really doesn't get old just exploring essentially like a limitless sandbox where anything you can imagine is possible, right? But um, there kind of does get to a point where maybe you've had enough of those sorts of, I'll call them like candy dreams, right? Where you're sort of like doing fun stuff that you would imagine to be fun in your waking life, right? And there kind of becomes a point where you, for some people, become more interested in exploring yourself a little more deeply, and dreams can be a really effective uh, springboard to jump from, essentially. So, some of the things that people like to do in their lucid dreams, or that they find easier to do in their lucid dreams, can be like trying to seek their subconscious, okay, and like ask their subconscious like direct questions about themselves. And keep in mind, this is like your manifestation of your subconscious. So like if there are questions, and so I'll preface this by saying like, these topics are definitely a little more fringe and a lot more controversial than some of the other stuff that I've like presented thus far. And so a lot of this is my personal opinion, and I'll try to be clear when I'm talking about my opinion versus the consensus of any given community and whatnot. And so um, right now, this is all going to be my opinion. That happened to me last lucid dream. I even asked the person next to me. They said they didn't know. Felt my body vibrating, but didn't go. Yeah, yeah. The vibrations are definitely a very common phenomena that we'll talk about. But yeah, so one of the things people might like to do is to ask their subconscious questions about themselves. Now, yeah, again, the last disclaimer is like, I think a lot of these topics have the potential to benefit you, not just in your dreams, but in your waking life. But they are no substitute for like professional help. So if you have like, you know, genuine issues that you're trying to work through, and you maybe see dreams as a potential way to help you work through those issues, that's great. But it's also probably a very good idea to seek out professional help. And yeah, so with that out of the way, we can continue. Um, So, let's say you have a question about something and you want to ask your subconscious. Maybe you don't even know. um you might not even have like a question, a concrete question or like a formal question, but you just want to like see what your mind creates, or ask it for like advice, or there's this concept of like a dream guide, right, that is thrown around a lot, and this is essentially like the same idea, right, of just, is there a way to receive some kind of like knowledge from deeper inside of you through your dreams? And a lot of people think there is. So the way you would come in contact with that is like all things in dream control, by expecting to come in contact with it. So if you're seeking, let's say, a dream guide, right, someone who can guide you, or a manifestation of someone who can guide you, who maybe is, some kind of expression of your subconscious, you can ask, like, in the same way, if you're trying to summon a dead person or a dead animal, you can ask. You say, I'm open to 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 a guide. I'm seeking a guide. Can you please show me the way? Can you please, give me something to help me? What can I do to help myself? These sorts of like questions. And if you sit and give your attention to them, observe how the dream changes, and observe what entities show up and how they interact with you and what they say. And then think about it when you wake up, like reflect critically on the encounters, and like ask yourself, is this something that benefits me, or is something that I should just like forget about and discard? Because sometimes dreams can be weird, and like there are, I think, the potential for accessing some pretty remarkable states is there, but there's also the potential for um, kind of like tricking yourself into thinking you've had some experience when maybe it was a little more just kind of random. But that's really for you to decide, right? And that's something that no one else can say for you, what you've experienced. This is all up to you. But do like critically reflect on these things when you're awake, or in the dream as well. um so like summoning your subconscious, or summoning a dream guide, is something that can be really interesting for a lot of people. um my cats are fighting. um you can use dreams to like practice things that you're wanting to practice in real life. Like you can have practice giving like a presentation that's coming up. You can practice a different language, or even like practicing certain physical activities. You could practice juggling, or playing a sport, or anything really. And a lot of people find that doing those things in a dream actually does have some positive impact to their corresponding activity in waking life, which is kind of interesting, even if like it's not an exact one-to-one um, replication of the experience, right? Like if I'm trying to juggle in a dream, it's going to be a little weird, right? Because gravity is going to be slightly different. Just the way I'm able to simulate the physical laws of the universe aren't quite exact. So it's going to feel kind of weird to try to like do something that's so dependent on gravity, but nonetheless, it can be like useful. Like, yeah, I can do things like slow down time, so it can actually work to my advantage. So I could like reduce gravity on purpose, so I could have longer to observe the balls and their trajectories and catch them in between throws and whatnot, and it would get me familiar with certain motions. And even if I'm not like physically doing them, my dream body's doing them, and would suspect that like similar parts of my brain are being activated, uh, as to when I would be doing these things physically in real life. So they can actually like it can be surprisingly effective to like use dreams as kind of a extended practice realm for all kinds of things. One second, my cats are freaking out. Bobby, be nice. So that's a fun one. Another one is like, we talked about this last time, but using dreams to overcome, this can be like really powerful, overcome fears or nightmares, either, fears you have in waking life, or like usually often those can manifest in nightmares and sometimes recurring nightmares. But using lucid dreams to voluntarily confront those situations and not try to reject them, not try to destroy or run away from them, but to actually embrace and to accept and to integrate them into yourself, can be a really effective way at overcoming and transcending them. One example, this happened to me is like, I used to have these recurring nightmares or whatever, and there were just like situations that I was scared of. And one time in a lucid dream, I came across this situation, and I don't even think it was like voluntary. I wasn't trying to come across the situation, but sometimes they have a tendency to like pop up and kind of hound you, right? Even if you're lucid. And in this one instance, instead of running away, like I embraced the fear, and I did what my ideal self, would do if I had no fear, because I was able to recognize I'm in this dream. This isn't real. I'm safe. Nothing can harm me. How would I want to act if I had no fear in this situation? How can I brace it? And it like, so I kind of flipped it, and I like tried to embrace and love and interact with the thing that was scaring me. And in doing so, like, it became completely harmless. And then what was interesting about this is, like, I did this in a lucid dream once, and then not long after that, the situation again came up in a regular dream, in a non-lucid dream, but I responded in the same way. I responded, you know, by embracing it, even though I knew, like, I didn't know I wasn't dreaming. I thought it was real. I acted in the same way that I had in the lucid dream. I embraced the fear, accepted it, and um, it never came back after that. That was the last time I had that nightmare, and and it's not just like that. It went away in dreams, but in fact, like in waking life, it's just it no longer became a bother to me. Not nearly to the same degree as it had been before. So that's something that can be really powerful, and especially if you have these like really like plaguing fears that you just can't seem to shake, and that really can cause you like a lot of can just occupy a lot of your attention. Like, willingly confronting them can be very powerful, and doing that in a lucid dream is like just that much more powerful, because that nothing can hurt you. That everything around you is created by you, and that your physical body is safe, and that you can experience things without needing to be scared. So that's another one that's good. And then we get to some kind of even more like fringe topics that I would say that like my own opinion on has evolved considerably, as I've been practicing lucid dreaming, even like, up to recently. And I'm sort of getting at this, like what people, there's lots of like names for it. Some people say like astral projection, some people say out of body experience, some people say, whatever. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of names in different, religious traditions for it, but essentially a state of being that is sufficiently different from the dream state to be given its own category. Okay. And when I first started lucid dreaming, I thought that this was not a thing. I thought that, you know, oh, people are having some experience in a lucid dream and they're attributing it to something else and they're just deceiving themselves. And I was like very convinced that that was the case, back in high school or whatever. And I stayed that way for quite a while. And I would have lucid dreams and I still held that belief. And it wasn't until, direct firsthand experience of one of these states of beings that I began to, become more open to the idea and to then seek it out for myself and to try to, form my opinions based off of my own experiences and not hold on to some maybe ego driven bias. Okay. So, um, what am I like talking about? Like, because this is all like kind of vague. Like one of the problems, like one of the hard things about talking about these sorts of phenomena and states of consciousness is that they are so loosely defined, right? Like people throw around terms all the time, and the problem is that people will use the same term and mean very different things with it. And the things that people associate, like not even like will mean different things, but they will like say like, okay, well, if you're, astral projecting, that means that you're doing this, and that means that this is like what you're experiencing, and then someone else might use that same term and mean something completely different. So for the sake of like clarity here, I'm just going to be like as vague as possible and basically say that, you know, through your explorations in lucid dreams, you may be able to reach these states of being that are sufficiently different from the dream state. Oh my gosh, my cat is going wild. Bopey. You may be able to reach these states of being that are sufficiently different from the dream state and sufficiently different from the waking state that they deserve their own category. And I believe this is the case. And I'm not going to say much about these states of being. I'll say a little bit, but I'm not going to say too much because ultimately I think they need to be experienced to be understood. And I think it's difficult to map them onto the language that we have at our disposal. Right? Like they're very hard to describe because they are like, again, this kind of like novel state. Okay. And so I'm not going to tell you like what it is. I'm not going to try to tell you even like exactly where it is or how to get to it, but I'm just going to encourage you to look and encourage you to stay open to the possibility that you might find something very surprising. Okay, so how might you, like, I can give you some hints about maybe how to look and where to look. And these are not just, my hints. This is like pretty common community consensus on, how to reach these different states. So one of the things that is like first recommended is like meditating in your dream, right? And there's lots of ways to like meditate. We've talked about this, but ultimately, like, this is up to you. And I do think meditating in real life, in addition to helping you have more lucid dreams, I mean, it's going to help a lot in this particular, like, if you're seeking out these kinds of states of consciousness. I mean, it's almost like a requirement. I think rarely do you hear people who are having these kinds of experiences that don't also like meditate at least somewhat regularly. Because ultimately it is like, because ultimately like you can reach these states from just meditation too. I mean, this is what like people have been doing for thousands of years through like many ancient traditions, right? Like they've been reaching these, mm, higher, that's loosely defined, these higher states of consciousness through simply like being present and being aware. But I think it is actually easier to reach these states from the dream state. And this is by the way, this isn't like completely without any history. Like, I mean, there's a whole branch of practices within the Buddhist tradition. I think the Tibetan Buddhist tradition that is like basically, yeah, dream yoga. I think I might have mentioned it in another class, but it's basically what I'm talking about right now. And the way that they look at it is that, you know, dreams, yeah, can be a valuable tool for helping an individual uh, become more familiar with a deeper kind of self, and that the steps for doing that are to first become essentially like a pretty proficient lucid dreamer, to first be aware that you're in a dream, to be able to be aware that you're in a dream, then to be able to control, your dream environment, to recognize that it's just your mind, that you have complete control over it. And then what's interesting is like they're I think the next thing that they like the is traditionally like kind of taught, although I think there are differences in different I think they're like lineages, right, have their own ways of teaching, and maybe they kind of deviate slightly. But um I think one of the things that you're supposed to do is like do things that scare you in a dream, and like confront, like what I was talking about before, confront your fears and embrace it, and kind of reflect on the illusory nature of the environment, because you know that you're in a dream, and you know that everything is manifested by you, and you know that if your dream arm or whatever gets injured in the dream, it's not your real arm. Like there's no need to be worried about it. And so by like experiencing these things firsthand, gradually you can become more acclimated to the idea that, yeah, this whole environment is illusory. This whole environment isn't me. And then from there you can start to wonder, well, then what is me? Right? If this body that I seem to be in isn't me, if this environment isn't me, like what is me? And then there's kind of like or like another way of like looking at it is like everything's me. Um, but you can kind of like start to, yeah, like meditate on your own awareness, trying to like do the same thing that you do when you're awake, but in a dream. Like you can sit down, you can close your eyes, you can do whatever. And if you close your eyes, sometimes it might just, you might have this kind of like blank. Sometimes you might wake up. That's okay. But often you'll kind of just inhabit this empty void where you will still be asleep, but there won't be anything. Like you can be in this void, this kind of emptiness. And from this emptiness, if you can remain in there, this is where it gets like hard to instruction becomes really hard, because this whole thing becomes like a very intuitive process, and it becomes, it's really like almost like you're navigating a kind of space, and that space is like navigated by intuition, and isn't really mappable using, yeah, our language, right? It's kind of this like space of consciousness and awareness, and so it's difficult to talk about. But if you can start to like get hints of it, like you'll notice it. You can notice that there is this thing that you have and is you, that is always there, that you can somehow deepen. And I don't know if I can explain it much better than that. And uh, when you stay in that space and when you kind of deepen it, you can feel some extraordinary, you can have these extraordinary experiences where, um, I don't want to say too much, but like it, many people describe it like there's lots of ways like people describe it, like the oneness, right? Like you feel this oneness with everything, like that can be true, right? You can feel, um, like you're returning home to a place that you were before you were. Okay, that can be true. And these are very like strong, like the thing about them is that like there's no denying them. When you experience these things, like it makes such an impact that like you can't, there's no convincing yourself that this wasn't, real, or this wasn't an illusion. Like it's just a too like convincing of an experience to then wake up and be like, oh, well, guess that was a dream. Like there's something else, right? There seems to be like this expanded sense of self that is extremely convincing, uh that it can be hard to like remember, it can be hard to recall, even if you have like good dream recall. When you wake up, sometimes like it can feel like kind of like fuzzy, and like all dreams, the longer you go, like the fuzzier it can get. But what remains is like that, that feeling of remembering like the astonishment kind of that you felt during the process, because it is this like astonishing process where the thing where you realize the thing that you thought you were isn't isn't you, or isn't just you, right? Like you're much more than the thing that you thought you were. I know that's kind of weird and vague, but that's kind of like all I can say. I don't know if that's all I can say, but like that's definitely like a start. Um, and that when you experience this, the other thing is like it actually changes you, and it changes your impulses, and you start to become more aware of that thing, um, in your dreams, in your waking life. And what's interesting is like the Buddhist perspective, I think, on dreams is like actually that dreams aren't all that different from our waking life, and that our waking life you can think of as just one big long dream. And that's kind of interesting. But uh this kind of like softness almost like emerges, where, and this openness, and this letting go ness, and this like acceptance of everything kind of emerges. And like where previously maybe you had an impulse to be fearful, now you have an impulse to embrace, right? Where previously you may have had an impulse um, to destroy, now you have an impulse to nourish, right? Where previously you may have had an impulse to hate, now you have an impulse to love. And this kind of like transformation takes place. And I can't tell you how you can experience that. Like I can't give you sequential steps, because I'm not sure that there are sequential steps. Just like in lucid dreaming, like it's kind of about finding your own path and navigating the waters yourself and seeing where you end up. Um, so I would encourage you to look though, and if you can resist the temptation, because often the hard part about doing this is like actually not doing all the other fun things that you want to do in a dream, because like right when you become lucid in a dream, you often are just like, oh boy, like playground, I can do anything. And often the thing that like it sometimes is like the meditation is like last on your list of like things I want to do in my dream. Like I don't want to just sit down and close my eyes. I can do that anytime. But actually that can be one of the most rewarding things you can do. So just remember, like definitely enjoy your lucid dreams and do all kinds of things and have as many adventures and fun experiences as you want. But do remember that this option is there, and it's worth seeking out, in my opinion. Do we have any questions so far? I mean, is this like, am I losing y'all, or is this like making any kind of sense? Because I realize this is a little strange topic compared to some of the other ones. I don't know if y'all are typing. There might be a delay on comments, but I mean, I do think that like, oh yeah, amazing opportunity for growth. Yeah. I do think that like in general, meditation is one of the highly like it's not emphasized nearly enough in most of the lucid dreaming communities, in my opinion. I mean, it kind of is, but like I think it should be emphasized even more, because it's kind of like it kind of like opens up everything for you. Yeah, I agree 100%. I have tasted some awesome meditation lucid dreams OVs, but lacking the foundations of consistent lucid dreaming. Yeah, consistent lucid dreaming is tough. I honestly, I think it just takes like a lot of time for some people. I mean, myself included. It's taken a lot of time, and I'm still, working on it. And that's the thing about these like experiences that I'm talking about. I don't know that there's like a bound to them. I think that possibly they're like completely unbounded, that the top is wide open, and that the only, you know, limit is how much attention you give it. Um, yeah, getting more consistent, I think, is just, it takes time, and it takes like patience, just doing the consistent, practices. Like I really do think like meditation, especially before bed, ideally like twice a day would be great, like during the day, any like, or as much as possible. Like I honestly think that if anyone could, I don't think this is feasible, but if anyone could just sit, by themselves in a room all day, like when they wake up, maybe they get some meals, whatever, all day they sit in a room and they just think like, I want to lucid dream. Am I dreaming? They just give their full attention to lucid dreaming, to their own awareness, to their own consciousness. If they did that all day, every day, I'm almost positive like they would have lucid dreams very, very quickly. Like I would guess within a week. What is your experience of the subconscious within the lucid dream? I have this strong sense that my subconscious is this other person, almost like a god when I'm lucid dreaming. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because there are part of like what I'm talking about here is, well, the subconscious is like one thing, but like, so in certain states, there is the sense of the self and the other. And so in certain contexts in your dream, your subconscious can manifest or can appear as this other person, right? And that's that's a completely valid experience. But there's this other experience where, in my opinion, and it's just like an intuitive feeling, the dichotomy of self and other is completely transcended. Like there is no self or other. It's all one, and like everything. So that's another like point of view, or like, that's another place that can be, reached in a sense. So, um, what does that say about you or reality? I mean, that's up for you to decide and for you to experience. But yeah, I think both things can be experienced. And certainly I think like, um, yeah, I mean, I've had my subconscious manifested as like dream characters or whatever in a dream, and I've been able to gain information from them. And often like they'll tell you things like you already know, but there may be things that you aren't quite, either like acknowledging, or maybe there are things that you're not like, that you don't want to acknowledge, or that you're kind of like trying to suppress or trying to like distance from yourself. And that's kind of this other thing is like, I think this is maybe the rationale of the Buddhist thing of, well, I don't know, but like, when you try to like distance yourself or like run away from these things in your dreams, like one of the reasons I think it's so important to like not do that is because you're almost like trying to disown a part of yourself. Okay, and it is a part of yourself, right? I mean, certainly like everything we experience in a dream, right, is we can think of as ourself, right? Like that kind of makes intuitive sense. Like we're in our own minds somehow. So when you try to like run away from a part of it, it's like you're trying to run away from a part of yourself. And so if you want to experience this like oneness or whatever, how do you do that when you're simultaneously trying to say that, oh no, but that's not me, right? So, like you want to do the opposite. You want to embrace everything. You want to include everything. You want to love everything. And when you do that, then the self and the other can be transcended, I think. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't have too much else I wanted to talk about. It's coming up to 50 minutes. If anyone has any other questions, definitely let me know. I'll just say a few things about like this is the last class of our traditional like plan. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have gotten some value out of it. I do think that like this format maybe wasn't the best. It's just like, yeah, not a lot of people want to pay attention to something for an hour or sometimes longer. So I was considering making some shorter videos about subtopics, or like just more specifically focused videos for people that are only interested in like a specific technique or something. So I'm kind of planning to do that, and if anyone has any input on that, I'd love to hear it in the Discord. I do understand what you're talking about. Oneness, on my spiritual journey that I've been trying, looking forward to in the future. Yeah, Delilah, I hope you get to experience it soon. I really think that anyone can get there if they give it their attention. And I think dreams are a great avenue for doing it. People can't meditate all day. Have you found an optimal meditation schedule to make sure it carries into sleep, like 10 minutes a day, 3 times or something? I don't know about optimal. Like the optimal, I think the optimal meditation schedule is the one that you will actually adhere to, right? It doesn't matter like what's optimal. Like if you're not going to do it. I guess maybe if you're wondering about like, is there a optimization where like you're getting like sort of the most efficient bang for your buck in terms of like time spent meditating, or is there like decreasing returns or something like that? I mean, there could be. I don't know, but I'm sure it varies for different people. So, you know, yeah, I think like 10 minutes during the day 3 times or something like that's great. It's honestly like as much as you're able to do consistently, and it's better to start small and build the habit than, you know, try to do more than you can handle and then get burnt out. And the beauty about like starting small and building the habit and is like it gets easier to do more as you go along. Like the motivation just kind of like it's like a rolling. Yeah, I don't know if anyone played the game Katamari, but like a rolling ball that just collects more and more mass as it like rolls over stuff, and like it has greater and greater momentum. So the more you do something, the more momentum you build, the easier it gets to do it and to continue doing it and to like do it even more, and you get better at it and it gets more fun. And that's the other thing is like it can feel like a chore, especially like this isn't just for drinking, this is for everything. Like a lot of times when you're learning to do something initially, it can feel like like a chore because you're not good at it. It's unfamiliar. You're having to like I don't know. It's just like not something that you usually do. So getting over that is like just getting over that is like a win, huge win. And if you do something, if you can stick to something for like I forget, I read some statistic. It's like if you can stick to something for a week, your chance of like doing it the next week is like whatever is X. But if you can stick to doing something for a year, your chance of doing it for the entire next year is like way higher than even just doing it that second week for a week or whatever. So basically, like the longer you do something, the more likely it is that you'll continue to do it. So optimal meditation schedule, whatever you will actually do. I mean, I do think like doing it before bed is good, and I also like, yeah, before bed or in the morning during the middle of the day, whenever, you know. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, like I was saying, I think I will do some shorter, more focused videos. I'll definitely like leave the Discord open, and if people want to keep talking in there, I'll be hanging around and stuff and try to answer questions. And maybe I'll do some like live streams again if people have like questions or whatever. I enjoy doing these and people like them. I can keep doing them, although they'll probably be a little bit less. There might be like less of a plan, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, guys. Anyway, coming in just under an hour. So, have you ever gone lucid through SP? Um, I have. I actually think that all the times I think I have. Well, yeah, I think I have, but I was like every time that I've like really been consciously aware of sleep paralysis has been like when I've woken up out of a dream and I like can't move my body. So usually it's on the tail end of a dream for me, and both can happen, right? You can have sleep paralysis when you're going to sleep or also when you're waking up. And most of the time for me, when I experience sleep paralysis is when I'm waking up. I just don't know what to do after hypnagogia. Oh, hypnagogia, yeah. I mean, it shouldn't like. How long is it taking you? Like, how long are you lying there? Because it shouldn't. If you're like lying there for over 40 minutes or something, it's probably more of an issue with your timing. It would be my guess, and I would think that you want to like vary the time when you wake up to do First off, you are doing it with wake back to bed. Yes, because that's very important. If you're trying to do wild and you're trying to attempt wild when you're just going to bed initially, it's going to be really, really hard, like borderline impossible for most people. So like finding the right wake back to bed timing is actually, I think, a huge deal when trying to do wilds consistently. 4.5 hours, yeah. So you could try, nudging that. If you've been like trying at that time consistently, and it's not working and you're staying awake too long, you could try nudging it. Meditate for 10 minutes. So, I mean, you could try 5 minutes. I mean, the thing about wild is like the wild attempt itself is like a kind of meditation. So keep that in mind. Like, and if you're, as soon as I fall asleep, I get yeah, as soon as like your body falls asleep, you get SP. I mean, it could be that you just have to like stay with it. So how long are these attempts usually? Like how often? Like, do you have a sense of how long it's taking you to reach SP, and then how long are you staying with your attempt after that? Because sometimes, I mean, you might, if it's happening fast enough, maybe you're just not giving it enough time. But if you're giving it like a lot of time and nothing's happening, then my guess would be that you're not close enough to a REM cycle. I mean, you could also just try like really staying with it. I've had like one experience where um, I literally, and I only knew how long it was because after I woke up from the dream, this was actually like, well, a little bit different, but I've had to like sit there for, well, once I like sat and basically was like doing a wild attempt for 2 hours, but basically turned it into a meditation section, and then eventually like I did make it into a dream, but it definitely wasn't the optimal way. I go to sleep, I focus on my breathing, and after like 3 minutes I start vibrating like a controller. Okay, so like, yeah, so like vibrations can be pretty common when you're going through these like transitions. They're not, yeah, I mean, that's not like 3 minutes isn't like very long. So, I would say try to like accept and move past the vibrations, like experience them, but don't give them so much of your attention that it like distracts you from, you know, falling into a dream. Like you really just want to maintain like a like as loose of as loose a thread of awareness as you can. You're not trying to be like very cognitively like active. You don't want to be thinking, all these kinds of thoughts. You don't want your mind racing. And sometimes when we have these intense physical sensations, they can be jarring and they can jolt us into a heightened state, not a heightened, but like a more active state of awareness that prevents us from like going into REM sleep and whatnot. Yeah, I would say maybe, yeah, try to just keep focusing on your anchor, yeah, breathing. Yeah. Maybe a mantra could help with breathing. Yeah. I mean, anything, they're all pretty much the same idea. I mean, give it some time too. I forget if you said how long you were practicing, but wilds can be difficult. And, for a lot of people, they take a decent amount of practice to learn and to get consistent at. And they're like, a lot of people don't recommend them to like beginners. I don't know, I think that's a little silly. I think anyone should try anything, but I get kind of where they're coming from, in that like, yeah, they are um you know it's like more intuitive for a normal, someone who's not super familiar with dreaming to just think of having a normal dream and then becoming lucid versus remaining conscious through the transition into REM cycles. Okay, good luck. Good luck, man. I hope it works out. Definitely let us know if it does. And I think if no one else has any questions, that will be where we end it. So thank you all for coming. Yeah, I hope everything was helpful. I hope you guys have success in whatever your goals are, and I hope to see you around in the future. So thank you.